good morning, everyone. Again, I am Reverend David Old, and I am the minister at Unity Spiritual Center of Windsor in Ontario, Canada. And due to the close of the border, well, here I am at my office doing my talks and my meditations from my office. So I'm glad that you are here joining me, and I appreciate you being there, and look forward to seeing you in person real soon. And Richard, hi, good to see you, glad to have you here. So this is the third week into a series of Sunday talks that I'm doing on Adyashanti's book, Falling into Grace, Insights on the End of Suffering. You know, two of my favorite contemporary spiritual teachers are Adyashanti and Eckhart Tolle. And their writings are very, very similar. And I really believe the reason they feel so familiar and so similar is the fact that they have both tapped into the truth of who they are. And they have seen their ego as the imposter that it is, and they live and they write from their spiritual essence, and realizing their oneness with spirit, and living and acting from the wisdom and power of the truth of who they are. You know, their words resonate with that same truth that dwells within each and every one of us. That one presence, that one power that we all live and move and have our being in. So the underlying questions throughout Adya's book, Falling into Grace, is why is there so much suffering in the world? And what is required to alleviate that suffering? So last week, we explored the insight that all suffering is based on a misperception of self. Adya says, as soon as we conclude that we exist as a separate self, then we've opened the doorway to suffering. It's our sense of self that suffers, that feels strain, anxiety, alienation, and loneliness. Our first fundamental principle in unity, from which all the other fundamental principles that we teach spring from, is that there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. And the key word here is one. And we can call it God, we can call it Source, we can call it Divine Mind. Charles Fillmore, one of the founders of Unity, especially liked Divine Mind. And in Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore says, there is but one mind, and that mind cannot be separated or divided. The individual mind is a state of consciousness in the one mind. So he says there is but one mind. And when he says there is but one mind, he has that capitalized because he's speaking of divine mind. And then when he says that there is the individual mind, he writes that as a small m, and which is our individual minds, our ego minds. And that, our ego mind, is a state of consciousness in the one mind. Now I want you to listen what Adya says in Falling into Grace. Ego is nothing more but a state of consciousness. When our mind starts to imagine that we are something separate and different from the world around us, it changes the way we perceive, which means it changes our state of consciousness. The thoughts that we believe alter and change our state of consciousness. Now, of course, all of you out there in Unity know that our Unity third basic principle is that we create our life experiences through our way of thinking. So at the heart of all of our suffering is this one insane thought that we are something separate and different from the world around us. There is only one presence and one power. And there is also only one absolute truth. And all other truths emanate from it. And when you find truth, when you wake up to that truth, your actions will be in alignment with it. As Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So human action can reflect the truth, or it can reflect illusion. So what are your actions reflecting? The truth of who you are, or are they reflecting your ego? Eckhart Tolle says the truth is inseparable from where you are or from who you are. Yes, he says, you are the truth. And if you look for it elsewhere, you will only be deceived every time. The very being that you are is truth. The very being of what you are is truth. Jesus knew this. He lived this, and he tried to convey this when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Over the past couple of weeks, we've explored how this false sense of self, which we call ego, has developed. It is made up of thoughts, ideas, opinions that are programmed into us from birth by our parents, our siblings, our friends, our church, our education system, our culture. You know, thoughts of them in themselves are really nothing. They're just symbols. They're an abstraction. They're not real. They're not a thing. Of themselves, they have no reality. It is only our belief in them, our identification with them, that the root of our suffering begins. You know, from a very young age, we're taught that we are what we think about ourselves. We also tend to believe what others think about ourselves. You know, and because we do, we listen to all these different people and all these different opinions of us, and a lot of them very contradictory messages. And so we have this sense of a shifting sense of who we really are as we're growing up. And it really makes us feel very insecure. We suffer because someone's opinion of us can easily trigger anger, sadness, feelings of unworthiness, even depression. Our sense of self is so ephemeral. You know, we need to really look at how our minds create this shifting sense of who we are. This sense of instability causes us a great deal of suffering. So my talk today is entitled The Trance of Ego, and that's based on Ajah's third chapter, which we're beginning to study, and that is which he called Awakening from the Egoic Trance. And in this chapter, Ajah invites us to alleviate our suffering by doing something. Ajah says the invitation is simple. Let go of indulging in the mind. Realize it doesn't have the answers for you, and it doesn't have the answers for us collectively. Another way of saying this is let go of indulging in your ego, which is a false image created by your mind. Ajah says that when we begin to look at our experiences clearly, we'll see that there's at least two phenomena going on. And one is the movement of mind, including all the descriptions, the self-images, the ideas, the beliefs, and opinions that arise moment by moment. The other phenomenon is the awareness of mind. Ajah points out very rarely do we take into account the awareness of mind, the space in which mind and awareness subsides. This pure awareness is actually the truth of who we are. But our mind has a very powerful ability to put awareness into a trance. Very quickly, we find ourselves lost in that trance. This trance is what Ajah calls egoic consciousness. It's the creation of our belief in who we are, which forms the very structure of our ego. Ego is nothing more than the beliefs, ideas, images that we have about ourselves. And so, actually, it's something completely imaginary. Aja says, everyone knows what it's like to get caught in the egoic trance. He says we experience great frustration and dissatisfaction. And part of our frustration arises because actually the ego can't really do anything about this underlying discontent that we feel, because the ego itself is simply a mechanical movement of thought. A mechanical movement of thought. It's like a computer program that we have been being programmed ever since we were born. It can't express our creativity. And Aja says our egos are basically the past expressing itself in the present. By that, he means that the ego is simply our conditioning unfolding and displaying itself here and now in the way we think, in the way we act, and in the way we react. In the egoic state of consciousness, we really don't have the amount of choice or volition that we imagine that we have. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The New Earth, says that all that is required to become free of the ego is to be aware of it. Since awareness and ego, he says, are incompatible. Awareness is the power that is concealed within the present moment. And this is why we may also call it presence. The ultimate purpose of human existence, which is to say your purpose, is to bring that power of presence into the world. And one more quote from Tolle, which is appropriate here. He says that spiritual realization is to see clearly that what I perceive, experience, think, or feel is ultimately not who I am. That I cannot find myself in all of those things that continuously pass away. And he's referring to the Buddha concept of impermanence. You know, for thousands of years, we have collectively been caught in the trance of ego. And over these millennia, the great spiritual masters of all traditions have realized this and given us many profound teachings about this condition. In one way or another, they all refer to this egoic state of consciousness as a dream, or something that doesn't really exist, but is only imagined to exist. Only a select few in the past were really willing to look at themselves deeply and to really explore their minds in a profound, deep way. The great mystics and masters of the past who felt this deep call to move beyond the ego or the egoic state of consciousness also felt the suffering of consciousness that most human beings were experiencing and that they were existing in. And for the same reason, they were compelled to move beyond it. Aja says today the same yearning and necessity is calling out to all of us. Aja says it's no longer something that's reserved for the mystics, for just a very few, because our collective survival depends on our consciousness awakening from the dream of separation and isolation. And Eckhart Tolle has made this very same observation. We are in a time where our survival depends on more people awakening to the truth of who they are. For almost everyone, opening to the possibility that we can let go of our ideas and beliefs and opinion brings up a lot of resistance and fear. You know, Aja says that people think that spiritual awakening which is nothing more than waking up from the egoic state of consciousness, is reserved for the few, and that achieving this liberation from suffering is extraordinarily difficult. But he says these are just thoughts and beliefs held in mind. By holding these thoughts in mind, we automatically cut ourselves off from the possibility of awakening. Transformation and awakening is available to all of us. Ajah says, as soon as we begin to transform the ideas we have of ourselves, we get out of our own way. And the door then opens up into who and what we truly are. Ajah says we all have the seed of awakening within us. And Unity's second principle is that human beings have a spark of divinity within them. That Christ consciousness is within each and every one of us, just awaiting to be recognized and allowing it to shine forth. The awakening does not require you to totally disengage from your mind. This awakening does not require you to totally disengage from your mind, even from your ego. This is a notion that belongs to mind. It's a notion that belongs to the ego, which divides life up. I mean, that is what mind does. It divides, it separates. Ajah says you are simply being invited to wake up from a trance. The less you push your mind away, the easier it is to wake up from it. The conflict of getting frustrated with your mind, your suffering, is what holds your mind in a limited view of things. It doesn't matter why you're in conflict. It doesn't matter what you're denying. It doesn't matter what in yourself you're struggling to change. The mere fact that you're struggling guarantees that your consciousness will not be able to wake up from the state of limitation. So Ajah tells us we don't have to struggle. We don't have to struggle against ourselves. It's just the opposite. All we need is a willingness to question your mind's conclusions. The willingness to just relax. Just let now be as it is. When you finally accept the moment as it is and cease being in conflict with what is, you become fully present. Fully present to this now moment. And you are that peace, that stillness that you tap into. You are that. Even in your deepest grief, even in the hardest moments in your life, all of that pain and sorrow lies within a whole new state of consciousness that already exists. Ajah says every part of your experience that's unfolding right now already is enclosed within absolute stillness and absolute ease. There is no place you need to go, nothing we need to seek. As Ajah notes, he says, struggle only gets us deeper into the very thing we are trying to escape. And this is really very important to know about our egoic consciousness. The harder we try to get out, the deeper we dig ourselves into. So the invitation is simple. Let go of indulging in the mind. Realize it doesn't have the answers for you, and it doesn't have the answers for us collectively. Together we can begin to stop the insanity within ourselves and amongst each other. Realizing our deep, essential nature and finding the peace and happiness that lie there is not just something for ourselves. It's a gift to all of humanity. Because when we begin to become expressions of what's possible for anybody and everybody, we are contributing to the goodness at the very core of each and every one. When we can relate to ourselves from stillness, from a place before the mind, then we can begin to relate to each other from that same place. Initially, it might seem quite difficult to relate to someone else, but if you simply hold that as your intention, it will start to happen. Maybe all at once, maybe bit by bit. There's really nothing to learn here, Ajah says. Awakening is actually a process of unlearning. The important thing is that where we're acting from, where we're relating from. When we relate from our true spiritual essence, then the quality of our relating is totally transformed. Then what we say to each other carries a whole different feel to it. It is then that we become expressions of peace rather than the expressions of the insanity of a divided world. This revelation begins with the recognition that you are not your mind, and you are not your ego, and you are not your personality. In fact, my friends, you are something much, much vaster, something much, much more incredible than any ego, any personality. My friends, you are so much more. Namaste. So now let us go ahead and begin preparing ourselves for a time of meditation. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some music on in the background as we do go into our meditation. So I invite you to bring yourself fully present again. Make yourself comfortable. Find a relaxing place to sit, and we'll have our meditation. And then after our meditation, please stick around. We'll have some announcements, and then we'll also close with our prayer of protection. I'm going to turn on. Just take a few moments to take a few deep breaths to bring your attention fully here. And our breath is a wonderful way to bring our attention fully present. And if we find our minds wandering, the breath is a perfect way, taking a deep breath is a perfect way to bring your focus back to this present moment. It's so easy for our minds to be taken away by a thought. So easy for us to be thinking of the things that we have to do. So easy to be thinking of the things that we did earlier. Thoughts will come, but thoughts will go if you let go of them. Just note them, that they're there, but then don't grab hold of them. So we just take this moment to feel the presence of Spirit. We take this moment to feel the truth of who we are. Spiritual beings having a human experience. Spiritual beings. Feel the power of Spirit within you. We are one with Spirit, one with each other. There is no two. There is no second. There is only one. And this one is experiencing all of this. And being one with our source, being one with spirit, we are in touch always with all the guidance that we could ever want. The answers are within each and every one of us. Whatever the need, the supply is within us. There is within us peace beyond our imagination, peace beyond understanding. And when we find ourselves in a situation as we find so many in right now, there is so much fear on the airwaves. No matter where you tune your television, there are people talking about the pandemic. But know right now that in the presence of Spirit, you are safe, you are sound. You are a spiritual being, eternal. Feel that presence, feel that peace. Whatever your need, if it be healing, feel the wholeness, feel the healing power of Spirit flowing through your body right now, bringing you to complete, total, healed, whole, complete. All the power of Spirit is within you. All the love, all the peace, all the guidance, all the wisdom. It's here, it's right now, and it is within you. So just take a moment right now to just rest in that silence. I'll leave the music on, but we'll just rest for a moment in that space within, that secret place of the Most High, that chamber within your heart. We rest there and commune with the truth. Connect with the truth of who we are. So as we allow ourselves to bring our attention back to this place and this time, we just allow a sense of gratitude to just fill our hearts and fill our minds. That Spirit is here with us always, that we are safe, that we are sound, that all of our needs are being supplied. So with this sense of gratitude, loving Holy Spirit, we say thank you. And so it is. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. And I did say I had a few announcements. And the first one is that today, right at 12 o'clock, we will have our Zoom at noon. That's where we gather together and discuss our talk of the day. And you are invited. We'd love to have you here. The invitation and everything is found on our website. And you can go there and find that invitation and just click on it and go to our Zoom at noon or Conversations with Rev David. And thank you again for joining me today. And we want to thank you also, all of you out there, for your continued support. For the tithes and love offerings that we are receiving. We are so truly grateful, and you are helping us through this difficult time. And please know that there are several ways that you can give, and one of them is our donate button, which is at the top of our website when you go there. And that will, if you click on it, it'll take you to Canada Helps, which is a secure location where you can make a donation by either a credit card or a debit card. And then we also do take e-transfers using our Unity Center Windsor gmail.com address. We're also taking PayPal now, and also you may send us a check through the mail. But anyway, again, thank you so much for your continued support. We certainly love you. We certainly appreciate you, and we certainly couldn't do it without you. Do know that the recordings of this service, we do have them posted every week. So they're on Facebook. They're also on our Unity Spiritual Center of Windsor website, and we also have them on our Unity Spiritual Center, our Unity Windsor YouTube channel. And so those they're available for you to watch or to send to other people if you would like. And if any of you out there are not on our email newsletter, which comes out once a week to sort of know what we're doing and everything, please feel free to contact us by phone or by email, and we'll put you on our newsletter mailing list. So let's go ahead and say a prayer of gratitude for the tithes and offerings that have come in for this past week, and that will be continue to come in, and just a closing prayer right now, and then we'll close completely with our prayer of protection. So we just take this moment and say our blessing, which is divine love in me and through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And we thank you, loving Spirit. We thank each and every one of you out there, the Christ all out there. We behold the Christ in each and every one of you. We are blessed by your presence. We are blessed to have you part of our spiritual community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's close with our prayer of protection, the revised one. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Love you. So glad to see you there. Jane, love to see you out there. Y'all have a wonderful week. God bless. Bye-bye.